Spider-Man Far From Home has come and gone, and already fans are beginning to discuss the fallout surrounding that whole multiverse thing covered in the film. Spoilers ahead if you haven't seen it, by the way, so best look away now if you're not up to speed. Right, for those who have stayed, you'll probably know that Mysterio was talking bollocks for all of Far From Home. But just because he isn't from the multiverse doesn't mean that there isn't one out there. In fact, there definitely is. Doctor Strange confirmed as much, and, well, there's still plenty more still to come. Whatever. With the multiverse once again in the headlines, we thought it would be a great idea to list off the best multiverse stories in Marvel's library, and which ones fans should read if they're keen for some what-if drama. As always, I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Comics, and here are 10 insane alternate multiverse stories Marvel fans must read. Number 10, SPIDER-GWEN. Oh, that rhymes. SPIDER-GWEN is by far one of the best things to come out of Marvel this decade, and we all have to thank Jason Latour and Robbie Rodriguez for that. Out of all of Marvel's characters, Spidey is definitely the one who's seen the most action in the multiverse. He's been reimagined more times than we've done lists, and true believers are fortunate enough that most of them have been pretty spectacular. Spider-GWEN, introduced in 2014, has experienced a meteoric rise, and it's because the universe Latour and Rodriguez have crafted is so brilliant. Gwen's the Spider-Woman of New York, Peter Parker is the Lizard, Frank Castle is the head of the NYPD, and Matt Murdock's working for the Kingpin. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. Number 9, Old Man Logan. Old Man Logan is a little bit more well-known following Hugh Jackman's last hurrah in the Logan movie. However, while that film was undoubtedly made in Old Man Logan's image, there are some major differences between the beats of the comic and the film, probably for the better. In this storyline, Wolverine is an old man set on Earth 807128 where the supervillains have won and the superheroes are left defeated. Think the Avengers at the start of Endgame, only much worse. A villainous Hulk, Abomination, Kingpin, Magneto, Doctor Doom, and Red Skull essentially run the world, occasionally warring over territory like the emperors of old. Red Skull has even installed himself as the President of the United States, and if that doesn't hammer home the horror of this reality, what will? Number 8, Marvel Zombies. Just the name should be enough to let you know just how insane this alternate reality is. Set on Earth 2149, this story was penned by Robert Kirkman of The Walking Dead fame, proving again that when it comes to zombies, there's only one man you should turn to. In an interesting twist to many zombie stories, including The Walking Dead itself, the infected heroes display the same levels of intelligence, charm, and personality that they've always had. The only difference now is that occasionally their arms fall off, and they're driven by an insatiable hunger. It begins with an unknown superhero infecting the Avengers, and the disease quickly spreads through the rest of the roster. The art style is unflinchingly gruesome and really nails the characterization of these heroes being almost the same as they once were, yet somehow very different. Most interestingly, this story isn't as self-contained as other multiverse offerings. This isn't just about the heroes being zombies. Galactus is coming, but the Avengers are too busy fighting and, well, feasting to heed the warnings. It does a fantastic job in both world building and storytelling, all while pushing its reality to the extreme. Number 7, Marvel Noir. Marvel Noir is a little bit of a weird one in that it's not a continued saga like most here, but instead a collection of disparate books. Luke Cage, Spider-Man, Daredevil, X-Men, Punisher, and Wolverine all received noir retellings in separate issues, held together by the same Depression-era aesthetic. These comics all eschew the regular superpower angle of their characters to instead tell pulp fiction character-driven tragedies. It's an interesting idea backed up by some fantastic art, but it's a little bit hit and miss across all the stories. Spidey is far and away the least noirish character, arguably in all of Marvel. He's fun, free-spirited, and never takes things too seriously, and yet his noir version is often thought to be the best. Number 6, Larval Earth. Without a doubt, the scene stealer of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was good old Spider-Ham. While it's true that the existence of the X-Men movies, the MCU, and the DCEU asks fans to believe in separate superhero universes which are linked in their own way, Spider-Verse challenged audiences in completely different ways. It showed that you could stack complex realities on top of each other and still tell a great story with fantastic characters. One of those characters, Spider-Ham, was from the Larval Earth, sometimes known as 8311. Spider-Ham isn't the only anthropomorphic hero here though. Oh no, the whole gang is here. Quacksilver, Kangaroo the Conqueror, Captain Americat, and Nick Fury have some of the best puns, along with Peter Porker himself. Pretty much you name it, they're there. Number 5. Secret Wars. Though the original Secret Wars saga was great, it's the 2015 version which makes the cut here. The original is thought to be one of Marvel's best ever efforts, with a perfect balance between action, comedy, and heart, all while introducing the symbiote into continuity. When it comes to multiverses though, the 2015 version of the title is your one-stop shop. The story involves several other multiverses featured here, along with the standard Earth 616 universe, collapsing in on themselves. A lot of the multiverse stories go very meta, but when they're going meta about being meta, you know you're in for one hell of a ride. That means that in the new battle world, the combined multiverses, several versions of the same character can exist at the same time. Unfortunately, we don't get to see too much interaction between the hundreds of alternate heroes, but to do such a thing might have distracted from the story itself, the culmination of Jonathan Hickman's stint on the Avengers. The various multiverses are essentially factions now, warring for dominance in this new world. So much of this premise feels like pure fan fiction, but it's really well written from top to bottom, even being rewarded with an extended run due to the positive reception. Number 4. X-Men Days of Future Past. X-Men Days of Future Past has already been tackled on screen by the revival of the X-Men franchise, and while the movie's not without its stumbles, it's still a valiant effort and one of the best multiverse stories ever put to print. In the comics, Kitty Pryde has a far bigger role than Ellen Page's character does in the film. One of the many drawbacks the X-Men flicks face was a lack of belief in their supporting characters, leading to too much focus and pressure on the leads, even when the story didn't particularly call for it. The comics have always been better at sharing the load, and Days of Future Past is no exception. Set on Earth 1-1, Days of Future Past takes place in a dystopian future where mutants are all kept in internment camps. In order to rewrite history, Kitty Pryde transfers her consciousness to her younger self in order to stop the swelling tide of anti-mutant hysteria. After Mystique assassinates Senator Kelly for his anti-mutant rhetoric, the press and population turn on the mutants as one. And anyway, you don't have to look hard to see parallels between the dystopia of the comics and our current reality right now. Number 3. Marvel 2099. Like Marvel Noir, Marvel 2099 is a collection of stories all held together by the same principle. Unlike the genre style of noir though, 2099 stories are all set in, well, the year 2099. In fairness though, this futuristic setting does bring some cyberpunk vibes, so there are some genre links there too. Initially, it was believed that these stories were set in the main universe of Earth 616, just in the year 2099. However, it was later revealed to be Earth 928, so it definitely counts as a multiverse narrative. Just like Noir, Spider-Man is one of the most popular characters in this particular universe, with Oscar Isaac's Spider-Verse post-credits cameo suggesting we might see 2099 Spidey, Miguel O'Hara, on the big screen in the not-too-distant future. As well as Spider-Man, Doctor Doom, Punisher, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Hulk, Ghost Rider, and all-new hero Ravager get their own storylines too. In the end, 2099 offered a lot of potential, and no one could argue Marvel didn't go for broke. Number 2. The Ultimates. The Ultimates might not necessarily class as something that's particularly insane, unless you count Captain America swearing about how the A on his forehead doesn't stand for France, because Mark Miller. It was still a massive breath of fresh air when it debuted in the early noughties. Reimagining the Marvel Universe for a new generation, The Ultimates and its surrounding titles exerted a major influence on Marvel for years, even going so far as to inspire many of the elements later seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right down to Samuel L. Jackson portraying Nick Fury. The Ultimate Universe should have really quit while it was ahead, but there's no denying its peak years were scathing and brutal in equal measure. Also, it gave us Miles Morales, which is amazing in and of itself. And number 1, 1602. Marvel 1602 was written by the legendary Neil Gaiman and is a Marvel story unlike any other. Set in the year, well, 1602, it features classic Marvel characters on varying sides of a royal plot in the Tudor era. Oh, and it has dinosaurs too. What's not to love? The dinosaurs feature as part of an Act 3 time travel arc, but the majority of the action takes place in the 17th century on Earth 313. While some characters are undoubtedly a little forced to fit the era, other choices are inspired. Rojas as a Native American warrior, blind minstrel Matthew Murdock, and alchemist Doctor Strange being just a few examples. Though the comic won a lot of praise, Time magazine labeled it the worst comic of that particular year. The justification for that criticism was that we saw more of Gaiman's goofy side than a Sandman level of mystique and gripping interest, but hey, it still works. It's perhaps unfair to criticize 1602 against one of the generation's most important fantasy novels, but Gaiman's name did invite those expectations. If you go in expecting fun, you'll be well rewarded. If you're expecting Gaiman to deliver his magnum opus in a world where Peter Parquois is Sir Nicholas Fury's apprentice, you'll be disappointed. But if you're not, well, it's great. As always, I've been Ewan, keep supporting your local comic book store, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!
you.